All right, let's talk about something that's totally changing the game for how big companies train their teams. Enterprise XR. We're talking about surgeons getting to practice super complex operations or technicians learning how to fix vital equipment, all in virtual reality. The potential here is absolutely huge. But there's this one massive problem that keeps popping up. How do you actually get this stuff to work at a large scale? Well, let's dig into why that's so tough and what the solution looks like.
Okay, so this is the question, right? The big one that keeps a lot of tech leaders up at night. Maybe you've run a small pilot program, and XR training was incredible. It worked wonders. But then you try to take that magic and roll it out to hundreds, maybe thousands of people, and bam, the complexity just explodes and the cost goes through the roof. So what is going on there? Why is it so hard?
It pretty much boils down to these big 5 headaches. First, you're looking at a mountain of cash just for the hardware up front. Then comes the IT management, which is, a total tangled mess. And all the while, you've got this nagging fear that all that super expensive gear you just bought is going to be a paperweight in 2 years. On top of that, what happens when a system just crashes right in the middle of a critical training session? And don't even get me started on the security risks. Honestly, it's no surprise that so many of these amazing XR projects just fizzle out before they even get off the ground.
But what if you could just sidestep all of that? I mean, all of it. What if there was a platform that was built from the ground up to take care of all that complexity for you? Well, that's exactly where MAIA comes into the picture.
So what is MAIA? Well, at its heart, it's a streaming platform for XR and real-time simulations. And it's all built around 2 really important ideas: making things simple and making them scalable. Think of it as a completely managed, totally wireless system that gives you amazing, high-quality training experiences without any of those classic IT nightmares.
And this right here, this is their whole mission in a nutshell. Simplify, scale, and accelerate training. See, the idea isn't just about making XR training possible. It's about making it so incredibly easy to set up and grow that you can finally stop worrying about the tech and just focus on the important stuff, making your team better, faster. The technology should be working for you, not the other way around, right?
So you're probably wondering, how does it actually do all that? How does MAIA pull this off? Well, let's pop the hood and take a look at the architecture to see how this thing really works. Okay, it really comes down to 3 main pillars that make this a complete, all-in-one package. First up, you've got the hardware. This is a super powerful, pre-configured box they call an edge computing unit. Basically, it's a local server that does all the heavy lifting right there on site, which means you get top speed and security. The second pillar is the software. That's the brains of the operation that manages the whole experience. And third, you have the service. This is huge. It means end-to-end support, monitoring, updates, everything. It's a true set-it-and-forget-it system.
I love this analogy. The best way to picture this whole thing is to think about it like building with Legos. Seriously, instead of trying to engineer some crazy, complex system from scratch, you're just snapping together these perfect, pre-made, high-powered blocks to build exactly what your business needs. It's that simple.
And here you can really see that Lego idea in practice. You've got all these headsets connecting wirelessly to that one central MAIA unit. This modular approach is the absolute secret sauce to making it scalable. You can start small, right? 1 unit for a small team. And as your training program grows, you just add another block and another, all of it managed from one single, simple interface.
So this is what that scaling looks like in the real world. The platform comes in these super clear tiers. You can kick things off with an ultra-mobile unit that handles a small group, maybe 4 to 8 people. Then you can jump up to the core for a whole classroom setup, or if you're going big, you can deploy the Apex and have 70+ people in training at the same time. That kind of flexibility is amazing because it means you're only ever paying for what you're actually using.
Okay, so we've seen how it works, and that's pretty cool. But now let's get to the why. The part that really matters to the business. How does all this clever tech actually translate into real wins for your bottom line and your operations? Because this right here is where the whole thing becomes a complete no-brainer.
Just look at that number for a second. 0. Now, when we're talking about massive tech infrastructure projects, what on earth could 0 possibly mean? It means 0 CapEx, 0 capital expenditure. For any finance chief who's looked at XR and thought, that's a nice dream, but it's way too expensive, this changes everything. Instead of dumping a huge pile of cash into hardware that you know is going to be outdated in a couple of years, you switch to a simple, predictable monthly fee. All that capital you just freed up, now you can invest it in your people, in their training, the stuff that actually grows your business.
All right, let's look at another number. 50%.
Just think about that. What would it mean for your budget if you could cut a major cost in half?
That's what we're talking about here, a 50% cut in the total cost of ownership. And how do you get there? Well, think about it. You don't need a separate PC for every single headset anymore. You don't need a bunch of dedicated IT staff on site. You're using less power. And you get to completely say goodbye to those awful, expensive hardware refresh cycles every few years. When you add it all up, the savings over the long haul are just massive.
And it's not just about the cost. It's about speed, time to value. A traditional XR setup, you're easily looking at months of planning, integrating, and troubleshooting. But with a system like MAIA, which is basically plug and play, you are up and running in days. That is literally the difference between getting a critical training program launched this week or maybe this time next year.
And this killer business case is backed up by some seriously impressive performance. We're talking gorgeous 4K resolution streamed wirelessly to each eye. The whole system is rock-solid stable, and you can literally set it up anywhere. And this is a big one, security is baked in from the very beginning. It even has a fully offline mode, which for a lot of companies in secure or remote locations is an absolute must-have.
So, what does the path forward actually look like? If you're ready to go, how does it happen? Let's quickly walk through what deployment looks like, and then peek into the future, because this platform is about more than just today.
The whole deployment process is really transparent and, honestly, pretty simple. It's not something you do alone, it's a partnership. It kicks off with figuring out your goals, then moves on to picking the right hardware, testing everything out, and finally a super smooth on-site installation. The whole thing is mapped out from start to finish, so there are no surprises. The goal is just to get you up and running at scale as fast as possible.
Okay, but here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. Because a piece of infrastructure like this, it isn't just about solving the training problems you have today. It's actually a bridge to future-proofing your entire operation.
See, because MAIA is fundamentally a powerful edge computing platform, what you can do with it goes way beyond just XR. You can start running real-time AI analysis right on site, making decisions in the moment without ever sending data to the cloud. You can train your own AI models with your private data, keeping it totally secure and cutting costs. You can even use it to speed up 3D rendering for your development teams. Suddenly, it stops being just a training tool and becomes this strategic powerhouse for all kinds of innovation down the road.
And that really brings us to the last question, and maybe the most important one. When you look at the old way of doing things, all that complexity, all that cost, and you compare it to the sheer simplicity of a managed platform, you really have to ask yourself, is your organization ready to stop fighting with the technology and finally start simplifying reality?